Hi, this is Jim Williams, and with me, Chris King at Just Parlays. And for some reason, we're having a little technical difficulties here this morning.
I was gonna say, I
Uh,
started watching the countdown reset itself.
yeah, we got poltergeist in the system. Well, welcome everybody. We're at Just Parlays. Chris and I are here, and got plenty of fun stuff for you today. Chris, anything left over from yesterday you want to talk about?
Well, I mean, the big thing was we told you about Akron being, an unrightful underdog, and they went out there and they beat Wright State handily. We told you the Raiders weren't very good. They came in 2-6. I had no idea why they were favored by 4 points. Akron put the boots to them, winning by 18. And that just goes to show you these sometimes the bookmakers give you a number where it's free money, and you got to be able to jump on those when they're there.
Which ain't that often, but sometimes if you take the opportunity, you get there, and it's not a bad thing. So
That's true.
when it comes up, when Chris tells you to do it, do it. It's going to be worth your while. So today, let's see. Today we are going to start in college basketball, and we're going to take a team that we haven't talked about this year, but has a history of being pretty decent at basketball, and that's Oral Roberts.
Yeah, I got to go back one because I went ahead. I clicked ahead by accident. Yeah, Oral Roberts. No, that wasn't your fault. That was mine. They're at home. They're going to play UT Arlington tonight. UT Arlington, they're 3-5 on the year. Oral Roberts is 5-5. But if you look at the numbers, UT Arlington struggles when it comes to the offensive end of the floor. They're 323rd in scoring offense at 63.1 points a game. They're 260th in field goal percentage, and they can't shoot from outside to save their lives. They're 340th in the nation in that category. Meanwhile, Oral Roberts is 23rd in scoring offense at 82 points a game. They are 22nd in three-point shooting. They're 15th in rebounding. I look for Max Abmas to have a big game for Oral Roberts. In his last 5, he's averaging 24.8 points per game, and he's hit 29 threes in that stretch. So look for him to bomb outside and make life tough for UT Arlington. Like we said, the Mavericks 322nd in offense efficiency, 338th in effective field goal percentage. They are the 6th highest team when it comes to turning the ball over at 25.2% of their possessions. And like we said, they're 340th in three-point shooting. UT Arlington 3-8 in their last 11 after giving up less than 50 in their last game. That came in a 56-47 win over Lamar. Woo. We'll talk about Lamar again later. They're not a good basketball team. UT Arlington 1-7 in their last 8 after an ATS win. Meanwhile, Oral Roberts 4-0 in their last 4 at home and 9-2 following a ATS loss. Take the Golden Eagles minus 7.5. They should win this one by double digits. The Mavericks don't have anybody that can stop Abmas, which is going to make for a long night for the visitors in Tulsa.
Well, they better hope that the wind is blowing in Tulsa and maybe it blow the ball into the basket, because otherwise it's going to be a tough time beating Oral Roberts. So we leave Tulsa and we go to...
Now we're going to go to Drake, which I believe is in Iowa.
It is, yeah.
And they're facing Jackson State. Jackson State is just 2-8 this season. Drake 6-4. They had won 3 straight before coming off an overtime road loss to Clemson over the weekend. 7 of the 8 losses for Jackson State this season are by double figures. They are 342nd in offensive efficiency, 354th in scoring offense. That's right. There's 4 teams actually worse than them in scoring offense, and we'll highlight a couple of them later in the show. They're 326th in effective field goal percentage, 316th in turnover percentage, 349th in free throw attempts per field goal, so they don't get to the line much, and they're 353rd when it comes to shooting from inside the arc. Meanwhile, they have to face a Drake team that is 73rd in effective field goal percentage, 37th in three-point shooting, and they average better than 75 points a game, which is a far cry from the 56.3 Jackson State puts up. Now, I get Roman Penn, who's out with a broken foot, is going to hurt Drake. It impacted them down the stretch in the Missouri Valley Conference Tournament last year and then in the NCAAs. But Jackson State just 2-6-1 against the spread in their last 9 against teams with a winning record. Drake 10-4 in their last 14 against teams with a winning percentage below 400, and they're 7-3 in their last 10 on Thursday. Drake put together a nice second half against Clemson and could have won that game if they hadn't faded in overtime. I don't expect them to have any problem taking care of Jackson State at home. Like we said, the Tigers, all 10 of their games have been on the road this year. You can't have much faith in a team that's 2-8 and can't score.
You know that Joan is saying that she's thanking you, and it's always good to see you, Joan. Welcome back. She's thanking you for Akron from yesterday.
Well, you're welcome. Like I said, it didn't make sense that they were an underdog to begin with. So you got to take those gimmies when they're there. As far as Urban Meyer getting fired, Jim and I were talking about it. We think that he should be sent to England so he can deal with Shad Khan's soccer team. At least then if he kicks somebody, it fits in with the sport.
Right. He should be like the Ted Lasso of Tottenham. But we'll see. Send him to London, Southwest London to be exact, so he could coach Tottenham Hotspur. It doesn't surprise me, to be honest, that Urban got fired. But he's still
getting paid, so
it's
a good gig if you can get it.
He's a polarizing figure. You either like him or you don't. And evidently it didn't work out in Jacksonville. They'll figure out something. But, it's not for lack of trying. Mr. Khan has spent a lot of money trying to make that team work. So, hello, Fular. Nice to meet you. So, sweat-free win. Nothing's sweat-free in this business. Here you go. Next up, Chris.
Yep, we've got Charleston taking on Stetson. That's right. We've had fun talking about the Gauchos before. Now we're going to talk about the Hatters. This game down in DeLand, Charleston a 4.5-point favorite over Stetson. You really think they would be favored by more? I mean, Charleston's 7-3 on the year. They've won 3 in a row. They beat Presbyterian in overtime the other night on the road, despite shooting about 38% from the floor. Stetson's 3-6, but if you look, they're 1-6 when it comes to facing a Division I team. Their lone win, a 1-point victory over that Lamar team we just talked about a few minutes ago last month. So they're 1-6 against Division I teams. They won by a point against a crappy team. It doesn't really bode well for you. Stetson 277th in effective field goal percentage. They're 302nd in effective field goal percentage defense. They're facing a Charleston team averaging 82.1 points per game under Pat Kelsey, who's done a great job since coming over from Winthrop. They're 40th in offensive rebounding percentage and 69th in three-point shooting. Charleston 5-1 in their last 6 against teams with a winning percentage below 400. 5-1 in their last 6 against teams with a losing straight-up record. Stetson 1-4-2 in their last 7 overall. 1-4-1 against the spread in their last 6 as an underdog. And they're just 1-3-1 in their last 5 home games against the spread. I don't know what you can say about the Hatters. I don't know why this line isn't higher than what it is, but hey, kind of like Akron, if they're gonna make it where it's comfortable for you, ride it all day long. Kelsey and the Cougars should win their 4th straight, go to 8-3 on the year. The Hatters just, they don't play offense and they don't play defense, but other than that, they're great.
Yeah,
I'm sure they've got a good bench or something. Maybe they've got some good concessions.
It's Stetson's a good academic school, and they've actually developed a pretty decent small football school there, so they're doing okay. Nathan's in the house and said that USC crushed them. I don't understand why you wouldn't bet on USC because the Trojans have been playing pretty well lately.
Well, no, he did take USC. That was the problem. They struggled against UC Irvine yesterday and didn't
right. They didn't win by enough,
which was disappointing because I thought that USC would have had an easier time with the Anteaters.
Yeah. John Senna says that Arizona killed him.
If Arizona would shoot damn free throws with any kind of success, we wouldn't run into problems like that. But, John, I'm glad you're here because it's time for as Carl from Aquatine Hunger Force used to say, it's the stone-cold lock of the century or the week. And we've got Chicago State taking on IUPUI. This number seems to be a lot higher than what anybody expected. I talked it over with a bunch of people. We all thought that this was going to come in at 112 to 115. They're giving you free money at under 119. Chicago State 355th out of 358 teams. Ken Pomeroy's rankings. IUPUI is 354th. Chicago State is seeing the under go 4-4-2, but the Jaguars have gone under in all 8 of their games that have a total posted this season. Chicago State 332nd in scoring offense at 61.8 points per game. IUPUI is dead last, averaging 49.4 points a game this season. Chicago State 342nd in field goal percentage, 219th in three-point percentage, 350th in free throws, so they can't even put a game away if they're ahead. Meanwhile, IUPUI 351st in field goal percentage, 353rd in three-point shooting, 339th in free throw shooting. IUPUI's high point total this year, 61. That came against Spalding, which is a small school. I believe it's in Kentucky. Either way, they're not a Division I program, and they still only mustered 61 points. The under is 12-3 in the Cougars' last 15 after a double-digit loss. It's 4-1 in their last 5 on the road against teams with a losing home record. The under is 5-0 in the Jaguars' last 5 after scoring less than 50 points in their last game. It's 6-0 in their last 6 after a straight-up loss, and 10-1 in their last 11 overall. There is no reason to think that we're going to have some massive offensive bonanza when you look at these teams. They can't hit the broadside of a barn. They couldn't hit water falling out of a boat in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. If either team hits more than 60 points, it would be a shocker. Just because, like we said, IUPUI's high number this year is 61. Chicago State, they've actually broken 70 once or twice, but I think that was just an aberration and somebody screwed up on the scoreboard. Look for the under here. It's going to be the quintessential rock fight. I know of those of you who read ESPN and college football season, they talk about the bottom 10 and the pillow fight of the century when you have teams like UMass and UConn playing football. This is the equivalent of that on the basketball court. Where else would you rather be than right here, right now? If you're me, or if you like basketball in general, anywhere else but IUPUI. Correlated parlay, yeah, I like Chicago State. They're actually getting 2.5 to 3 points, depending on where you look. I can't see Indiana or IUPUI putting up enough points to beat anybody. They might not even beat, your local 5 to 7-year-old team at the YMCA. Take the Cougars if you're going to go that way with the points. If you're playing the total, play the under. I can't see any way that this ends up going over.
So we go on from there, and this one.
We're going to the pond, Jim. We're going to the pond.
Is the on the ice, and it should be some fun because tonight is a good night to be with Vegas, right?
Yeah. It's the Golden Knights on the road. They're going to face New Jersey. The Devils have lost 7 of 8. They were pasted 6-1 on the road by the Flyers Tuesday in a game that I thought they could have won until they had the opening faceoff. Meanwhile, Vegas has won 2 straight and 5 of 6. They beat the Bruins 4-1 on the road Tuesday. Vegas has scored 33 goals in their last 7 games. Meanwhile, the Devils have scored more than 2 goals just twice in their last 8. Vegas is 4th in the league with averaging 3.5 goals a night. That goes up to 3.58 goals per night on the road this season. Vegas 5-1 in their last 6. They're 40-13 in their last 53 against teams with a losing record. They're 9-3 in their last 12 after giving up 2 or less. New Jersey 6-25 in their last 31 against an opponent that gave up 2 or less in their last game. New Jersey 1-5 in their last 6 after a loss by 3 or more goals. They're 15-40 in their last 55 as an underdog. You just can't trust the Devils right now. They've got a few guys in the health and safety protocols that take some weapons out of their offensive lineup, and they haven't been scoring lately as it stands anyway. With the way Vegas is scoring now that Max Pacioretty is back and Mark Stone is back, William Karlsson is back, there's just too many weapons. Vegas will just roll line after line after line that can bury you with offensive chances. You got to like the Knights here on the road over a suddenly fading New Jersey team. They were playing some good hockey earlier this season. They've hit the skid since.
And this is not the time of year you want to do that because you can get yourself in a deep hole and it's going to be tough to get yourself out.
True.
So then we're going to Minnesota and Buffalo.
Yeah, that game's at the Xcel Energy Center in the Twin Cities. Sabres 4-13-4 in their last 21. Gee, remember back at the beginning of the year when everybody's like, hey, Buffalo's going to make the playoffs for the first time in a decade because they're 5-2. Guess what? You won more games in the first 7 games of the season than you've won in the last 21. Congratulations. They did beat Winnipeg the other day. Big deal. Minnesota's dropped 2 in a row after an 8-game win streak, but they haven't played since Sunday, which is good. They needed a break because they had played 3 games in 4 nights. They had played in Edmonton, and they had played in Los Angeles, and then played in Vegas Thursday, Saturday, Sunday last week. Minnesota 10-2 on home ice. Buffalo 3-7-2 on the road. Buffalo's 28th in the league in goals against at 3.50. Minnesota second in the league in scoring with 3.68 goals per game. At home, Minnesota puts up 4.5 goals a game. It's tough to contend with a team that can score that often. Buffalo is reportedly going with Malcolm Subban in goal tonight over Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, as Craig Anderson and Dustin Tokarski both still out. Buffalo 24-78 in their last 102 on the road. They're 14-48 in their last 62 as a road underdog. Meanwhile, Minnesota has won their last 4 against the Eastern Conference. They're 6-1 in their last 7 with rest, and they're 8-2 in their last 10 overall. Look for the Wild to win this one by multiple goals to cover the puck line at -115, as the Sabres have shown no ability to slow anybody down offensively of late. I mean, you saw that. I mean, granted, the game against Washington went to a shootout, but the Capitals fired 40-some shots on net in that game. So it's not, and like Jim, like you said yesterday, Washington hit the post 7 times. So that game easily could have been over in regulation.
Exactly. Go ahead and hot change to the Lightning.
Yeah, the Lightning are at home tonight against Ottawa. Tampa Bay 7-2-1 in their last 10. Ottawa surprisingly won 5 out of 6, which is scary considering Ottawa is near the bottom of the Atlantic Division. One of those wins was a 4-0 win at home at the Canadian Tire Center over Tampa Bay Saturday. One thing to point out, Brian Elliott was in net for the Lightning in that game. Andrei Vasilevsky will be back in the pipes for this one. Ottawa 4-7-1 on the road this season. Tampa Bay 9-3-2 at home. Vasilevsky 119, 37, and 11 with a 245 goals against, a 919 save percentage, and 14 shutouts in 172 regular season games at the Amalie Arena. Ottawa's last in the league in goals against. They give 3.65 a night, which is always dangerous when you're facing a team like Tampa Bay that a lot like Vegas, you can roll 4 lines and just pound you into the ice. Ottawa 39-111 in their last 150 as a road underdog. They are 16-46 in their last 62 on the road. Meanwhile, Tampa Bay 4-1 in their last 5 after a win. They're 56-16 in their last 72 against Atlantic Division teams. And the Lightning have won 5 of the last 7 matchups overall and 7 of the last 10 here in Tampa. I like the Lightning to bounce back from that loss Saturday to Ottawa and prevail at home as Vasilevsky shuts the door on the Sens, while Anton Forsberg isn't quite as fortunate as he was in Saturday's contest.
Vasilevsky is definitely insane when it comes to playing at home. He's phenomenal. All right, so we're going to go from here to the association, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
All right, go ahead and pop through to our first game.
We got the Suns playing at home over the Wizards. Now, like we were talking in the pre-show, Jim, the Wizards have stumbled of late. They've lost 3 in a row and 6 of their last 7. They are playing the second game of a back-to-back. They lost last night 119-105 to Sacramento. Both teams are playing their third game in 4 nights. I mean, if you remember, the Suns played the Clippers Monday and Portland Tuesday before coming home for this one. Meanwhile, Washington was in Denver Monday night and lost to the Nuggets in a game that wasn't as close as the final score indicated, since they were down by 33 in the third quarter before cutting it down to a more respectable 6, and then were drubbed by Sacramento yesterday. Washington 7-10 on the road. They've been outscored by 4.5 points per game in those games. Meanwhile, the Suns are 12-2 at home with a plus 8.6 scoring margin in those contests. Washington is 1-10 in their last 11 after scoring 100 or more. They are 1-7 in their last 8 on the road against teams with a winning home record. Washington just 3-12-1 in their last 16 overall against the spread. That's 0-4-1 in their last 5 after a straight-up loss. Meanwhile, you're facing a Phoenix team that's 10-3 against the spread in their last 13 after allowing 100 points or more, and 11-4 in their last 15 on one-day arrest. DeAndre Ayton is going to be back in the lineup. Devin Booker is targeting next Tuesday's game against the Lakers as his return from a hamstring injury. But with the way the Wizards have played lately, it doesn't really matter. You have to like the way that the Suns are playing, especially, in a crowded top of the Western Conference, because you've got the Warriors right there, then you've got the Suns, and now you've got the Jazz, who have ripped off 8 straight wins after they whipped the Clippers last night, 124-103. So now you got Utah chasing down those two teams at the top of the Western Conference standings. Phoenix has got to pick up wins against teams that they should beat. This is one of those cases. I look for the Suns to prevail at home. Nathan, I haven't seen what the line is for the first half in this game. If it's Phoenix under 5, I think it's probably a safe bet. The Wizards did not look good in the first half yesterday against Sacramento. And, fatigue is going to catch up with them sooner or later. I have to think that the Suns are a safe bet either way that you play it here.
Absolutely. Go on to our next battle on the hardwood in the association.
Oh, yes. The exciting Atlantic Division matchup between the Nets and the 76ers.
The COVID Bowl.
Now, the Nets are without James Harden, Bruce Brown, Joe Harris, Paul Millsap, LaMarcus Aldridge, DeAndre Bembry, Joe Harris, Kyrie Irving, James Johnson, Keith Van Horn, Kerry Kittles, Bernard King also not suiting up tonight.
Right.
The 76ers
yes.
76ers are minus George Niang and Ben Simmons. Furkan Korkmaz is questionable. Julius Irving, Mo Cheeks, and Moses Malone will not be playing for the 76ers in tonight's ballgame. Philadelphia playing the second game of a back-to-back. They lost 101-96 as an 8-point favorite against a shorthanded Miami team last night. And that comes on the heels of that 126-91 thumping that they took at Memphis on Monday. The Nets have won 3 straight, including that 131-129 overtime win over the Raptors, despite their shorthanded rotation. Philadelphia just 3-13-1 in their last 17 when their opponent gives up 100 points or more. They're 1-5 in their last 6 overall. They are 1-5 in their last 6 after giving up 100 or more in their last game. The Nets are 8-2 in their last 10 on Thursday. We saw Durant and Patty Mills step up and carry this team on Tuesday night, with the 76ers reeling again. And everybody's, we talked about how they were hot at the start of the year. They were 8-2 in their first 10 games. Since then, the 76ers are just 7-12. They're 1 game above 500. If the playoffs were to have started today, they would be in the play-in tournament as opposed to being near the top of the Eastern Conference where everybody thought they would be. I can't trust a team that's that inconsistent. I mean, they've had Embiid and Harris and those guys back for a while now. And they're still playing lousy basketball. I mean, maybe it's the whole thing with Simmons. Maybe that's all gotten into their heads. I don't know. But the bottom line is this game's in Brooklyn. In Philadelphia, they're not a great road team. They haven't been in years. And I don't like them here, no matter who's playing for the Nets.
Yeah, and you think that in the case of Philadelphia, the embarrassing part is that they should be better than this. And
indeed,
they're not.
And I don't know what it is. I mean, it's basically, for the most part, you've got the same team you had last year. I mean, there's no major changes. I mean, they added Niang, they add another guy to the bench. I mean, he's not going to play tonight, but he's been playing. And the fact is they're still just waddling along. And I get it. You're in the Eastern Conference where a 500 record can probably get you a 4 or 5 seed most years. But still, this is not what the fans in Philadelphia are used to seeing. And it's got to be a bit disenchanting for that fan base.
Mm-hmm. By the way, folks, while you're here, there's a lot of you out there. We greatly appreciate it. If you are watching us on YouTube, please smash the like button and hit the subscribe button so you know when we're on. And we greatly would appreciate that. We only have one of you has hit it so far, and a whole bunch more of you out there, so please do that. Same thing on Facebook. Hit the like button, same on Twitch, and also follow us on Twitter. So
now, John, I'm still waiting for that belt. Now, we covered Chicago State, Indiana, or IUPUI because you wanted us to cover it. I'm still looking for that belt to go up on my wall. So
it should be a good one.
You got that second mortgage, so you should be good.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so that's enough for the shameless plugs at the moment. But now back to the association for our last game before we move on to the NFL, right?
Right. And that's the Pacers at home over the Pistons. Now, yesterday we told you to take Milwaukee, who was actually getting points against the Pacers, and Milwaukee obliged as Indiana lost 114-96 on the road at the Fiserv Forum. So they're playing the second game of a back-to-back here. Meanwhile, Detroit's lost 12 in a row. They haven't played since losing to Brooklyn Sunday. They were going to play Tuesday night against the Bulls. That game was postponed due to the Bulls having basically no players. Detroit, second worst in the league in scoring offense at 99.7 points per game, and they won't have Jeremy Grant, who's their leading scorer, or Kelly Olynyk, who's been out since mid-November with a knee sprain. Meanwhile, Detroit's 2-11 on the road, Indiana 9-7 at home. Indiana's gone 8-1 in their last 9 against the spread in the second game of a back-to-back situation. They are 6-2 in their last 8 on Thursday. They're 7-3-1 in their last 11 as a home favorite. Detroit is 3-9-1 against the spread in their last 13 in Indiana. You have to think that the Pacers could win this one comfortably, especially with the Pistons running out of scoring options. Joe, and I know the Pacers suck, but I mean, when you get right down to it, Detroit is 4-22 this season. I don't have any faith in a team that's 2-11 at home and 2-11 on the road, and who's lost 12 in a row. I mean, they're just plus your minus your leading score. You don't score that much anyway. Can you really trust the Pistons? You need Cade Cunningham to go off for 40 just to have a game in shouting distance, because there's not a whole lot else you can rely on in that Detroit rotation without Grant. And now apparently they're actively considering trading him before the trade deadline. So then what are the Pistons going to have? A bunch of nothing.
You know, it's you have to wonder in the case of both Indiana and Detroit that those were once proud franchises, but they haven't been relevant for a while.
That's true. I mean, and Indiana, they've got a good nucleus. They've got LeVert and Sabonis and Brogdon to lead the way. And if TJ Warren can come back healthy from that foot surgery that he had that cost him all but 4 games last season, that'll give them another good scoring option. The loss of TJ McConnell hurts Indiana because he was a good veteran point guard. He was good to lead the second unit. They have to find a way to replace him, but the bottom line is Detroit's, a train wreck and a dumpster fire combined with a nuclear holocaust right now offensively. And, you just can't put faith in a team that can't break triple digits, especially in the era of the rampant three-pointer and, team scoring at will, seemingly.
Yeah, that's for sure. Now, we're headed to Thursday Night Football next, right?
That is correct.
And tonight, we haven't had a lot of good Thursday Night Football games, but this one's relevant. This one's for the West, and the Chiefs are playing hot. I mean, they have played really well as of late. And, the Chargers haven't looked bad either. So, all said and done, this might be an entertaining football game tonight. And by the way, for those of you who do not, we implore you to go out to winnersandwhiners.com and read the preview. I put it up. It's right now on the feed over on YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube, the link is there. Because the person who wrote tonight's preview of the game is none other than the man sitting in the chair over there, Chris King. So, Chris, take your breakdown, because that's what they're going to read on Winners and Whiners right now.
Yeah, you'll usually find me writing the Thursday and the Monday night games over there. For some reason, I don't get a lot of Sunday games, I guess just because I do the major games here. I like the Chiefs -3 over the Chargers. Like Jim said, first place in the division's on the line here. The Chiefs 9-4, the Chargers 8-5. The Chargers won the first meeting this season 30-24 at Arrowhead back in September. Both teams averaging 27 points per game this season, but the Chiefs have the edge on the defensive end of the ball. They're 6th in scoring defense by allowing 20.6 points per game. The Chargers are 26th in scoring defense. One thing about the Chiefs during this 6-game win streak, they haven't allowed more than 17 points in any game in that stretch, which could bode poorly for the Chargers. We just saw what Kansas City did to the Raiders last week, winning 48-9 in a game that probably wasn't even that close. Meanwhile, the Chiefs are 4-0 in their last 4 overall. They're 4-0 in their last 4 after giving up 15 points or less. They're 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 after a straight-up win. The Chargers, 9-22-1 against the spread in their last 32 after scoring more than 30 points in their last game. Of course, they beat the Giants 37-21 in a game that wasn't that close because the Giants scored 2 touchdowns in garbage time to make it more competitive. Chargers just 4-10 in their last 14 as a home underdog. They are 7-20 against the spread in their last 27 against teams with a winning road record. I expect the Chiefs to avenge that loss from back in September at Arrowhead. It was so long ago that Tristan Vizcaíno was kicking for the Chargers and missed an extra point after the Chargers scored that go-ahead touchdown. It would have given him a 7-point lead, but he missed the extra point. Fortunately, the Chargers defense held up on the final drive to preserve that win. But, with the way that the Kansas City's been defensively, it's going to be tough for Justin Herbert and company, especially if the Los Angeles defense can't get off the field. I like the Chiefs here at SoFi Stadium.
I think you're right. I think it's going to be the Chiefs are going to win this, and it's going to be a close game. And they're going to win by 3. I do think, though, that what has been overlooked in some regards, at least in the last few games, is the Chargers' defense is playing better. Now, does that mean that they'll be able to hold down Kansas City? Who knows? They're playing at SoFi. It's going to be a very interesting game. What I think, Chris, and I think that, again, I agree with you on the 3 points, is can Justin Herbert play against what has become probably the best defense in the AFC at this point in time? At least in the last 3 or 4 games, they played the best defense.
Right, and the thing about the Chargers defense has played better, they've played better in spurts. I mean, they've played well early against Cincinnati, but then, they were up 24-0, and then all of a sudden it was 24-22. They played well against the Giants, but if you look, the Giants had Mike Glennon under center, and, the Giants really had no offensive weapons to speak of. If you have to beat the teams that you face on the schedule, but we don't have to give you credit because you beat a bad team. Yeah, it goes in the win column, but you don't necessarily get plaudits for beating and I'd love to bring up Gene Smith. You don't get credit necessarily. Nobody's going to laud you for beating the Little Sisters of the Poor and the local YMCA. You have to actually beat good teams, and that's where the Chargers, they've kind of had their issues with that in recent years. Mm-hmm. They'll beat the bad teams, they'll struggle against the good teams, and that's why they always end up 8-8.
That's a good point. Well, if they're going to make a statement, tonight would be the night, but I don't think it's going to be the night. Kansas City reminds me of Tampa Bay last year when the Bucs reeled off 8 straight wins and went into the playoffs. This Kansas City team looks like they're peaking just about the right time.
Right, and as legendary professional wrestler Ric Flair would say, and John, you know what I'm going to say here. To be the man, you've got to beat the man. And right now in the AFC West, Kansas City is the man. As much as it chagrins me to say, because I'm not a Chiefs fan by any stretch of the imagination. But obviously, when you're the top of the mountain, somebody's got to knock you off the mountaintop in order to take that throne. And no one's been able to do it yet. Obviously, we know the Raiders aren't going to do it. I don't think Denver's going to do it. I don't have faith in the Chargers tonight. They were fortunate in the first game because Mahomes turned it over 3 or 4 times. But if you look, that was against a Chiefs defense that was a complete sieve back in September. And they've been good the last 5 or 6 weeks since the calendar flipped to November. And that makes it a lot more difficult for teams to go in and beat Kansas City because now Mahomes knows he doesn't have to score 35 points to beat somebody. Mm-hmm. He can score in the 20s and still get a win.
Absolutely. All right. So we've gone through college basketball. We've gone to the frozen pond. We've gone to the association. We've dipped our toe in the NFL for tonight's Thursday night game. So it's time for 2 for the money. And
Yep.
here's where we're going for that.
Yep, like we said, I like the Chiefs over the Chargers -3. I think that Kansas City is going to win by at least probably a touchdown in this one. It'll be a close game, but in the end, Kansas City's got too many weapons, and their defense makes a key play to seal the victory there. Like we said, Minnesota over Buffalo. The Sabres 4-13-4 in their last 21. They're facing a Minnesota team that averages now 4.5 goals per game on home ice in 12 games this season. The Suns over the Wizards. Like we said, the Wizards have lost 6-7. They're playing the second game of a back-to-back. They were beaten soundly by Sacramento last night. Nobody thinks Sacramento is a good basketball team outside of maybe, the players' moms. And then the Lightning -1.5 over Ottawa. I know Ottawa beat Tampa the other night. I know they bombed Florida and what led to the end of the Spencer Knight experiment, because the Panthers then went out and claimed Jonas Johansson off waivers from the Avalanche, and now he'll be the backup behind Sergei Bobrovsky. And Knight is back in the AHL. Tampa Bay, they're just a very good team. You don't win the Stanley Cup back-to-back years based on luck. Look for them to beat Ottawa tonight. May tamp down the parade plans in Ottawa for the Senators, who, have climbed out of the basement in the Atlantic Division. Though, I guess they can have a parade for that. That's something with Pierre Dorion being an incompetent man or owner.
Could be a problem there. You got Joan who's stealing my line. So she says, let's do 4 for the show. So Joan, for you, anything. Here we go. 4 for the show.
Yeah, I look for the Chiefs Chargers game to stay under 52.5. I know they scored 54 in the first meeting. I think when I wrote the game, I might have had to go over, but I've looked into it further since then because I had to write that way ahead of time. When you look, like I said, the Chiefs have allowed 17 or less in their last 6 games. 4 of those games, they've given up single-digit point totals. You have to think that this one is going to be under the number. I don't see this being an offensive bonanza here. Like we said, Chicago State, IUPUI, if there's ever a game to go under in a rock fight, this is it. I can't imagine, it'll set basketball back about 100 years. You might as well just break out the peach baskets and have to get a broom to knock the ball out afterwards, because there's only going to be about 3 baskets. Then I like Vegas over New Jersey, and Oral Roberts, in case you weren't here at the beginning, I like the Golden Eagles over UT Arlington. Look for Max Abmas to have a big game for Oral Roberts. 24.8 in his last 5, and he's hit 29 3-pointers in that stretch, including back-to-back games where he hit 7 triples. The Golden Eagles, they're an overlooked team. They went to the Sweet 16 last year. Sure, they missed Kevin O'Banner, who transferred. But, the bottom line is UT Arlington is not good, and Oral Roberts is better.
So, all right. Well, we've gone, 2 for the money, 3 for the show. Here's the big time. And let's figure out what we're going to do. Shot in the dark, a little bit of everything. And as you like to say, it's a Chinese menu. If you like some of it, take some of it. 2, 4, 6, 8, whatever you think is best for you.
Right, and the same with the 2 and the 4s. If you want to mix some of those up, you don't have to take them just the way I put them up there. You can mix them however you want. If you want to take Chicago State in IUPUI under 119 and mix it with one of the twofers, do that. Do whatever works for you. I'm not going to hold a gun to your head and say you have to play it just the way it's up there. Rick, I agree. Justin Herbert over the passing yard total would probably be a safe bet, because if they get behind, they're going to have to throw. Could lead to a lot of dump off to Austin Eckler, which is always a plus for the Chargers. On the shot of dark, like I said, the Nets -1 over the 76ers. That's just a game where it's a battle of attrition. I don't expect a ton of excitement in that game just because of all the star value that's out, but I expect Brooklyn will come out with a win at home. Like we said, Indiana over Detroit. The Pistons 29th in the league in scoring offense at 99.7 points per game. They don't have Jeremy Grant, who's their leading scorer. He's out 6 weeks with a thumb injury. This next one was tough for me. I wasn't sure what to do with the Knicks and the Rockets. I thought about it. I mulled it over. I like the Knicks -5, despite R.J. Barrett, Kevin Knox, and Obi Toppin being in the protocols. Houston will be minus Kevin Porter, Daniel House, Jalen Green. And they played last night in Cleveland and got stomped 124-96 by the Cavaliers, so it's the second game of back-to-back for them. Florida, we just talked about. They were whipped 8-2 by Ottawa the other night. It's just their second loss in 16 home games this season. They got a Kings team that comes off an OT loss to the Lightning, but let's face it, the Kings were fortunate to get a point out of that one. Jonathan Quick stood on his head to get him that one. The Kings won't get the benefit of facing Spencer Knight. They'll get Bobrovsky in net instead, and that bodes well for the Panthers. I like the Avalanche -1.5 over Nashville. The Predators have a bunch of guys in the protocols themselves, including 4 coaches. If that game goes, you have to think the Avalanche will be in good shape to win comfortably there, with the Predators scrambling to find players to plug in. In the horrible game of the night in the NHL, I'm going to go with the Flyers, who have suddenly won 3 straight games. Of course, they beat New Jersey and Arizona for 2 of those, so I don't know how much that counts. But they're facing another doormat team in Montreal tonight, and the Canadians are, well, I don't speak French, so if anybody knows how to say not good, insert that here. You could also put very lousy or crummy or whatever other adjective suits you. I like the Islanders at home. That's right, Barry Trotz. I'm going to look for them to get a second home win at the UBS Arena over the Bruins. The Bruins minus Patrice Bergeron and Brad Marchand, both in the health and safety protocols. That takes out 2/3 of their top line. David Pastrnak can't do it all by himself. Like we talked about earlier, if you were going to play the line in the barn burner of the night with Chicago State and IUPUI, I like the Cougars +3. I like Charleston -4.5 over Stetson. Like we said, Stetson has 1 win over a Division I team all season, and it was a 1-point win over Lamar. And finally, UNC Greensboro +3. They're going to go on the road. I like them with the points against UMBC. I went against UMBC earlier this week when they went to Princeton. Princeton won that one by 12 as a 6-point favorite. I'm going to take the Spartans, who are 7-3 on the year, to make it 8-3. Take the points over the Retrievers, who are not the same team when Ryan Odom was there and led that team to the first 16-1 upset in the NCAA tournament history. Jim Ferry, he's done a decent job, but I like the Spartans there.
By the way, just for the heck of it, it's possible, which is not good in French. So for those out there who need to know, that is it, possible, which means not très bien, which is good in French. So there you go. There's your French lesson right here.
See that? So, not only do we give you sports lessons, we give you, we can help you with other languages.
We can.
Where else can you get that kind of stuff all in one place?
Right. We're not the government, but we're here to help. Anyway, Chris, it's been you've given us a ton of good stuff here today. Anything that jumps out, because everybody always wants to know what is, your favorite thing. And I'm not going to push you to one. A couple out there that you think are, if it were me and, John's there, he just got his second mortgage on the house. We don't want him to have to, become homeless. Any thoughts on what you might, help John out with here so that he gets to keep the home?
Well, like I said, I really like, in one of those games that nobody really talks about, I really like Charleston over Stetson. When you have one game where you beat a Division I team and it was by 1 point, and when you look at Lamar's numbers, they're just absolutely brutal. Lamar is currently ranked 301st according to KenPom. They're 2-9. They lost by 29 to Miami of Ohio. They lost by 32 to Texas Tech. Their 2 wins are against Wiley by 17 and Our Lady of the Lake by 3. And if you think either one of those teams are basketball powers, I got news for you. I got a bridge I want to sell you. Basically, there's no reason that this line should be that small. I would think that Charleston should have been favored by 7 or 8. I'm guessing that they're just feeling good for Stetson because the game's in DeLand, and they're hoping that, Charleston might forget that there's a game. And like I said, I like the Chiefs -3 just because of the fact that we've seen, the Chargers are up and down and up and down.
Mhm.
And Kansas City, it's hard to argue with the fact that they've won 6 straight games, and they haven't given up more than 17 in any of them, and that's going to put a ton of pressure on a Chargers defense. Where if you look at their stats this season, I mean, we're talking about a team that likes to give up points. They gave up 24 in the first meeting. They gave up 22 to the Bengals. They gave up 34 to the Ravens. You have 27 to New England, 27 to Minnesota, 37 to the Steelers in that wild game on Sunday night a few weeks ago, 28 to Denver. I mean, they're not had that wild 47-42 game with Cleveland back in October. I mean, we're not talking about a team that really slows down opposing teams. And if you're facing a team led by Mahomes with Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill and all those guys, you can't afford to get in a shootout or fall behind by 1 or 2 scores against those guys, because they will bury you, especially with the way this defense is playing right now.
Absolutely.
And that's a scary thought when you get right down to it, because when we watched Kansas City earlier this season, you would think they couldn't stop a wishbone offense if they tried to throw.
Well, times have changed, and Andy's got them playing up to their expectations. So, all right, folks, thanks so much for joining us. As always, we greatly appreciate it. On the way out, please hit that like button and subscribe. Stay tuned at 3 o'clock, because Scott and Scott will be here with Back to the Window, and they're always an entertaining duo.
Yeah, I want to see if Steen and Reichel touch on the Chicago State IUPUI game or not.
We should hang around and just harass them about it.
Yeah, pick the Cougars.
Hey, come on.
In fact, you guys should harass them in the comments and tell them that you want to know what they think, and to put it on the Bet the Farm.
Right, I was going to say that's got to be their Bet the Farm bet tonight. So
I wouldn't surprise me if Steen puts the under as Bet the Farm.
It could happen, and at 3 o'clock you'll find out. Well, a little after 3 o'clock you'll find out. But anyway, again, thanks a lot, guys, for joining us. Tomorrow we'll be back as we get ready for the weekend, and we talk a little bit about what's happening in the college basketball, the NHL, the NBA.
And we'll even have bowl games tomorrow, because bowl season starts.
We got our first bowl, starts, and then there'll be bowls from now until the early part of next year. So,
contrary to popular belief, the toilet bowl is not a bowl game this year. Sorry.
No, although there are a few
pulled out at the last minute.
Yeah, although there are a few who would be very, very close. So anyway, again, for Chris King, I'm Jim Williams saying thanks. Stay tuned, 3 o'clock, and that's Back to the Window with Scott and Scott. Make sure that, as Chris said, you ask them to go bet the farm on IUPUI. And
as Billy Red Lions used to say on Maple Leaf Wrestling, don't you dare miss it.
That's true.
Hey, we're still live.